Hi, today I'll be explaining how successful the League of Nations was during the 1920s. The League of Nations was created after World War I, proposed by Woodrow Wilson, with the goal of preventing future wars, maintaining peace settlements, and encouraging international cooperation. To begin with, the League of Nations had clear success, particularly in handling smaller international disputes. It helped resolve conflicts like Greece and Bulgaria, as well as disputes in regions such as Upper Silesia and the Åland Islands. In these cases, the League used the negotiation and compromise to prevent conflicts from escalating into war. This shows that on a smaller scale, the League of Nations was effective in maintaining peace. The League was also successful in promoting international cooperation through its agencies. It worked to improve public health, combat disease, and assist refugees. For example, it helped resettle hundreds of thousands of prisoners of war and supported millions of displaced people. It also made progress in areas like labor conditions and efforts to reduce slavery. These achievements demonstrated the League was effective in humanitarian work and improving global conditions. However, despite these successes, the League faced serious limitations when dealing with major powers and larger conflicts. One of the biggest weaknesses was its lack of key members. The United States never joined, and countries like Germany and the Soviet Union were excluded for much of the decade. This reduced the League's authority and made it harder to enforce its decisions. Another major issue was its structure. Decisions required unanimous agreement, which slowed down action and allowed countries to block important decisions. In addition, the League had no military force of its own and relied on member states to enforce its decisions. In practice, countries were often unwilling to take action, especially if it went against their own interests. These weaknesses became clear in several failures. For example, when Poland took control of Vilna, the League was unable to enforce its decisions because major powers supported Poland. Similarly, during the Ruhr crisis, France and Belgium acted independently by occupying German territory, and the League would not intervene as France was a key member. In the Corfu incident, Italy ignored the League's authority entirely, and the situation was resolved outside of League control. In these examples show that the League struggled to act effectively when powerful nations were involved. Another important limitation was that the member states often prioritized their own national interests over collective security. Countries like Britain and France were more focused on protecting themselves than supporting League decisions. This undermined the idea of collective action and weakened the League's ability to maintain peace. In conclusion, the League of Nations was only partially successful during the 1920s. It was effective in resolving smaller disputes and made important contributions through its humanitarian work. However, it was largely unsuccessful in dealing with major conflicts and enforcing its decisions. Its structural weaknesses, lack of key members, and self-interest of powerful nations limited its overall impact. As a result, while the League of Nations showed some promise, it ultimately failed to provide a strong and lasting system to maintain international peace. And that should be it. Thank you.